Welcome to the First Gen 101 podcast. Today, I am joined by Edward Disi, a college graduate with over 15 years of experience in the software industry. Additionally, through CLY Coaching, Edward also helps people with their personal finances. We'll discuss his first gen journey, how it shaped his career, and the lessons he's learned along the way. We'll hear about CLY Coaching and his thoughts on financial clarity. Edward, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us about where you grew up and your family background?
Absolutely. Super excited to be part of the podcast. I'm excited to share my story with your audience. I was born in Nigeria, Africa. I was born to a beautiful family of five, and I migrated here to the US when I was 15. So came with my family, my father, mother, three other brothers, and we first migrated down to Cincinnati, Ohio. And Cincinnati, Ohio, we came to Texas. I came to Texas as a married man with four beautiful kids, and living currently right now in Houston, Texas.
Houston is actually one of my favorite places, and I'm not
How
just
is it?
here. My wife and I have actually traveled there quite frequently. We were there last March for the Houston Rodeo.
It's a beautiful city. It's a really big city. It's one of the cities where I truly, really enjoy living in. And now we call Houston home. It's brought us a lot of great success when it comes to like family, community, and also just the atmosphere. Right now in Houston, it's one of the beautiful parts about Houston I truly love is the weather. Like right now, it's about close to 55 degrees and it's chilly, but we've been enjoying a good spur of 80 some degree weathers and like in the heat of winter. Can't complain, can't beat that.
You talked about moving to the United States from Nigeria with your family of five. How was the idea of success implanted on you? Did it come from your parents, from your community?
Yeah, it's a good question. Education and success was impacted by my parents. I give credit to where credit is due. So my parents came from humble beginnings and they, like any other immigrant, moving to the US to find better pasture. And coming from a culture where from coming from Nigeria, where poverty reigned and it's very prevalent. So my parents decided to make that shift to come to the US. And also one of the things I love about Nigerians is they're very educated. We are into education and also into success. We believe education can drive success. So it's one of the things that is driven into the minds and into the brains of younger Nigerians growing up in Nigeria. So that was part of my upbringing. My parents are also college graduates, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but they knew the value of education. They knew the value of what education can do. It can give you at least a leg up in society. So it's very crucial, and they impacted and pounded that into our heads growing up. The fact that not only just getting a degree, but getting a degree that can support you and your family, and getting a degree that can make a big impact in the society also.
So I mentioned in the beginning that you have, from what I understand, more than 15 years in the software industry. How did that interest start? Did you go to school for software engineering, or did you find that along the way? How did you get into this field?
It did. So I've been in the software industry for over 20 plus years. So I graduated from the University of Cincinnati with the information systems bachelor's degree. So just shifting back to where it all started, my mom saw the vision ahead of us. She saw like technology was the new upcoming industry coming up in the next generation. So she encouraged us to shift into learning a little bit more about technology. And when I was in high school, I was one of two, my brother and I were one of the two Black students who actually took their computer programming classes. So that was from the push of my mother. She pushed us into registering for that computer programming classes, and that sparked an interest. That sparked an interest where I really enjoyed it. I went home, started my own first programming classes, took my first programming languages and started from there. And it's never ended. It's something that is still ongoing. So that was back in 1997 when I wrote my first VB VB, I think they call it VB.net or Visual. No, it's called Visual Basic Code. So I wrote my first Hangman game, and I tried my best to make it better. But eventually, that led into the passion that I have right now. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati with the information technology systems degree, and then went into my first internship, started studying programming. So I started off as a software engineer, and from there I moved up the ladder into management, and now working my way into like more director level in information technology systems. I currently am a software consultant. So what that means is I work with a group of consultants who are hired by a software company, and then we are consultant. We get a project, excuse me, and in this project, so we get hired by other top firms, small, mediums, large scale companies. So we go in there and actually build a software from ground up, and we consult with the companies and how the actual software that we're going to build will actually work for their business.
That's great. There's a couple of things you mentioned that I just want to highlight. One of them, and this is something that we've discussed in previous episodes with other guests regarding career vision, career planning. And it really stood out to me that in your case, in your situation, it was your mother who had this vision for you about a career from something that she had already envisioned as delivering value. In other words, your mother saw this great potential in technology, and it sounds like pushed you and your siblings to pursue that. So I think that's such a great thing to highlight because in a lot of communities we lag, and I say this as and I include myself, is we sometimes lack that family support. So we should always be looking. Maybe if our parents don't have that for us, but maybe we should look to mentors or other people to help us. And speaking of careers, personal finance, how did that
Yes.
transition happen? What sort of triggered your interest in doing this type of service?
Absolutely. So yeah, just want to go back to the last comment that you made. Yes, community was a big role, played a big role in where I am right now. So not only just my mom, so I stood on the shoulders of many people to where I am right now. So I can start to name names, so it never will be enough. But community, as you mentioned, especially from an immigrant coming into the US, there are a lot of things that we don't really understand and we don't really know coming into the system for the first time. So we relied heavily on the folks who were already here. We relied on community who have already started and had more like two steps ahead of us. So we followed in their path. And I do know justice if I don't mention the community that pushed us through and also cleared the path to where I am right now. So going back to the question that you asked, as far as going from technology into personal finance, like what made that shift? So it's a question that I'm still trying to answer. So personal finance and has always been a passion of mine ever since I got married. And this will take me back to my story of origin. Being an immigrant and coming into the United States, like we don't really understand the financial system here in the US. So as a first generation American now, there are a lot of things that I had to learn. And unfortunately, I had to learn it the hard way. So I've got myself into a lot of student debt, student loan debt. I've got myself into personal, finance debt. Like any other American, debt was the first thing that welcomed me into America. The same community that I had was also the same community that drove me into debt is a burden, right? Being in debt is a burden. And the only way to get out of debt is understanding how does the financial system work here in the US. And yes, it could work for your benefit. And yes, it could work for, it can also be there are pros and cons in when it comes to the personal finance system here in the US. So understanding that. And when I took the leap of faith and I told myself like it is time to be debt free. It is time to learn. It is time to leave a legacy for the children that are coming behind me. So one of the things I tell, a lot of people, especially first generation, is when you come into the US, right, you're working against a system that has already been there for 200 plus years. Coming into the US, trying to achieve the American dream, in most cases, it may never happen for the first generation. But the one thing that you can do is to start planting the seed now for the generations that come after you. So who would that be? So your children's children, because that is how the American dream is achieved, right? And we can see for the folks who have already been here, but the folks who already had the seeds already planted, it's the generation after them that get to reap the benefits of the seeds that are being planted. Now, my wife and I took that leap of faith and said, this is the time to start planting the seed for my children and not only my children's children. So having them getting out of college debt free, having them getting out of college with some kind of source of income that they already have already prepared for them to hit the ground running, because that is where success actually starts from. And also just understanding the fact that you cannot go against the headwinds of the financial economy if you're already in debt, because that's already an anchor that's already holding you back. So in order for you to set sail, you have to have the education, one. Two, you have to have the community that actually shows you how to get there. And three, again, like you have to stand on the backs of the shoulders of people who have already laid the roots down. And I'm so glad for folks like us. Like we're a first generation. Like we are the ones that are coming in, learning. We are the ones that are coming in, trying to understand what it takes to, excuse me, what it takes to leave a legacy for the next generation. And that is one of the reasons why I chose to get into personal finance. That is one of the reasons why my wife and I said, let's start a company, and let's start a company not only just to leave a legacy for our children, but also start to educate the people from my community, being Nigerians, and start to educate them about what it takes to start to leave a financial legacy for the children that come after us.
There's a couple of things I want to highlight. One of them is what you said about immigrating to the United States. And for a lot of our parents, and I'm not exactly sure if this was the case with your family, but I know in many families, the first generation is just surviving. They're just trying to
Yeah.
pay the bills and, as they say, living paycheck to paycheck. And I do believe, just like you said, that it is our responsibility to build the foundation for a legacy, because at the end, we're just stewards of the money we have or the finances. And the second thing I want to mention that I thought was really compelling is this is not about now so much, but it's about the future. And just like our parents decided to come to this country for the future, we're doing basically or nearly the same thing and also building something for the future. So I like that posture of building for the future. And so with CLY Coaching, do you specialize in certain stages in a person's life? Like, how would somebody know that CLY Coaching is right for them?
So absolutely. Let me talk a little bit about CLY coaching. So just for starters, my religion, my faith, being a Christian, has brought me thus far, right? It's brought me so long down the road. I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up where my parents instilled that in us. And also my faith alone has is what I give a lot of credit to my faith, and faith in God, and also faith in what he's doing here in my life. And that's what really started CLY Coaching. So CLY Coaching is a Christ-centered, dual focus finance and relationship coaching firm. So we focus more on the financial part of a relationship, and we also focus on the relational part of a relationship. So we understand our target demographics are young women and young couples. So for young women starting from dating to young couples from up to the 7 years of marriage. So those are our target demographics. So what we do, we focus where we've seen, especially in this day and age, in this community, in the society that we live in, the one thing that couples fight about is finance, right? And it impacts their relationship. So we see where those, like the relationship part of relationship and finance, those are the two most important bridges to building a legacy for a family. So what we want to do, we want to make sure we focus on the personal finance, from understanding what debt management is all the way up to like leaving like a retirement or living a legacy for your children when it comes to finance. And we also focus on the relational part, meaning if, for example, a young woman like looking to get married, right? So we focus on coaching that individual on understanding who they are and making themselves ready for their future spouse, right? So from there, and also we work with young couples who are newly engaged, where we work with couples who are in a committed relationship. So we focus on building a stronger relationship and also going into the marital part of the relationship. So couples who are newly engaged to premarital and also to up to the 7 year of marriage. Because we know, like, when couples become married, the first thing that we're not, especially for first generation or especially for immigrant families, a lot of the things that we learn from marriages are through our parents, right? And some parents may not get it all the way. So some of us, like, they do, we know, God bless, they do their best to instill what they know to be successful marriages. And a lot of us may not come from successful marriages. A lot of us may come from divorced marriage. I'm blessed to have my parents still married. So I've seen the struggle and what it takes to remain married and be married. So, and I've taken that, and my wife and I have also, we understood, like, we've gone through our challenges also in relationship. So we, we want to basically help couples in the two areas where there's a lot of fights, right? From a finance. And in the second, we want to make sure we build stronger relationships, like Christ-centered, godly relationship. And the one thing that we truly appreciate in our model, for CLY Coaching, is we want to build a legacy through stewardship, right? So our goal is to make sure we strengthen, and we educate families from a finance and also from a relational standpoint to build a legacy through stewarding what God has given us through our finance, through the relationship that we have, through the kids that we have. So again, our goal is to build a legacy through stewardship.
And one of the best decisions we made was early in our marriage was to attend a marriage conference, so to speak. It was like a weekend and also Christ centered. We also our faith in Christianity. And then secondly, we had our church, and this is something that I always mentioned, not just on the podcast, but just people in general, is that in my opinion, churches should have ongoing counseling with couples, not just with financial topics, but in other topics, because I can tell you in 10 years of marriage and there's always going to be need for guidance. So I just want to applaud that you're doing that and helping people from the beginning, but also through at least 7 years into their relationship. So in CLY Coaching, I was looking at your website and I saw that you deliver different types of specializations, so to speak.
Yes.
One specialization that really caught my eye, and I would want you to please elaborate, is on financial clarity. Because I think a lot of us, it's obvious that we want to save money, that we want to buy a house, that we want to save for the future and get rid of debt, all these financial goals. But it just seems very messy. So, how does CLY help people achieve financial clarity?
Financial clarity is different for different people. So depending on what your goal is, so it could be, and we'll take it from based on person to person. So if it's someone who's coming out of college, financial clarity maybe I just want to just go through college, or I just want to pay off my student loan and also coming out of this debt free, right? So it differs from person to person. There's not really one umbrella that covers everything. But if I was to take like a wild guess as far as what does clarity mean, financial clarity mean to the general public, the first things first is we need to make sure we're debt free. Being debt free, and the Bible clearly states, "Owe no man nothing." And just we want to make sure that whatever goal that you're trying to achieve, as far when it comes to finances, that you want to make sure that you're debt free. Right. You want to make sure that you can support yourself or support the community around you based on, based on things that you've planned, based on things you've saved, based on the goals that you have as far as being debt free. I strongly believe in debt free. So we've been able to pay off $250,000 worth of debt with one income. And based on one income, then my wife and I were able to pay all that debt off, and just the ability to breathe after all of that is paid off, the ability to owe no one nothing. We can make decisions that can impact like our future generations when we know that we can go on a vacation debt free. We can buy our kids cars. We can pay off our mortgage in the next 15 plus years, understanding that when we leave a legacy, right? We don't want to pass whatever debt that we have into our to our children. We don't want to do that. And for us, financial clarity means our children are able to go to college debt free, coming out of college, be able to stand on their own and support themselves without struggling. And again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, like our goal is to build a legacy for our kids' and their kids' starting now, right? At least someone has to put the shovel on the ground. Someone has to first be the first one to dig, be the first one to dig. And whatever our goals are, and this could be from a woman who is starting off in the like if, for a woman who is starting up out of college, who's getting their first professional job. What we want to do, we want to make sure that they're able to step into their new goal, their new career, their new life with the clarity of understanding this is what I need to do. These are the steps that I need to take in order for me to get there. Now, again, it's different from each person is different, but our goal is to make sure we provide education. Our goal is to make sure we break down any communication issues. We want to make sure like if there's any tension when it comes to family of origin, when it comes to finance, we want to make sure we're providing clarity so they can step into that new goal of wherever they want to go.
Sometimes we'll say to someone or we'll advise someone, hey, you do X, Y, and Z, things are just going to work out. But I do think it's important, as you mentioned, to get a real sense of each person because it might be clear to us. There might be things or situations with the person we're helping
Yeah.
that need to be clarified. And we talk about personal finance and we talk about money, but really what we're talking about is behavior, right? It's about being consistent. It's about being disciplined. It's about putting off immediate gratifications. And a lot of that, it's behavioral, right? It's about keeping yourself restrained. So, on that note, as you've been working with people in this space in personal finance, what are some of the behaviors or biases that you've noticed in people that have really surprised you?
You know what? Family of origin plays a big barriers when it comes to a lot of the people we speak with, and especially the community that we serve. We serve an immigrant community, and also we've seen where there's been generational barriers. First of all, coming to a financial coach or financial counselor to say, "Hey, I need help." That itself is the first barrier that a lot of people have to step over, and it's more like I saw my parents do it this way. I saw my dad budget. My dad took over the budget, and then my mom never really knew about it. Those are the stories that we hear. Family of origin plays a big role, and it could be like we've also seen where families are coming to us like, "My dad did it, so I need to do it because I'm the man of the house." In those cases, I take a step back and let people know like where I am right now, being in financial counseling, being in financial coaching. If you told me 10 years ago, like, how do you balance a budget? How do you create a budget? I would say, I don't really know. I've been married for 16 years. And for the greater part of our marriage, my wife was the one who led. She was in charge of our finances. And this is something that I see in a lot of immigrant families, right? So where the man thinks like I'm the one that's supposed to do it, but has no idea how to create a budget, right? So understanding the strength in marriages, right? Understanding if you like, brother, if you cannot do it and your wife can, like, give it up. Let your wife handle the budget. And then when you're ready to take over, she will gladly give it over to you. And that's what happened in my own case. So there's a lot of barriers that we've seen from family of origin. And there's a lot of barriers that we're seeing from just the lack of education. Like folks when they don't know. So you do need to understand, you do need to know, or you need to know, understand what financial education can do to your marriage, can do to you as a person. Understanding what credits are, understanding what debts are, understanding how to pay for college and coming out of college debt free, understanding what scholarships are based on those knowledges, based on the knowledge that you read, maybe from ChatGPT, maybe from Google, maybe from the trusted sites. Knowledge is never lost, only gained. And when you gain those knowledge, you can take advantage of it because that's the exact same thing the rich folks are using, right? They have the knowledge on how the financial system works, and they're just taking advantage of it. And I believe it's time for us to start to take advantage of that knowledge and empower ourselves through education and through financial education also.
I'm so glad that you're doing this work, truly, because you're not just doing it because you benefit and your idea is not just to get more, but your idea and your heart is to share your knowledge and empower your community, which I think we should all be doing that. Doesn't really matter from what faith or background you come from. As a community, living in a community, we should always be looking to empower our community.
Absolutely.
And as we come to an end, how can people get in touch with CLY Coaching? How can people learn more about your services?
So you can always reach us at clycoaching.com. So CLY Coaching, clycoaching.com. So we're also on the social media, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, you name it. Just search for CLY Coaching. You can also do a Google search for CLY Coaching.
Edward, is there anything else that you want to mention? Anything that you want to highlight for our community here?
I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to your community. It's really great to see see what this podcast is doing for our first generation Americans here, or first generation wherever you are in the world. I'm sure your reach is also global. But one thing I do want to mention is there is life after. There is life when it comes to if you feel like you're in a pickle where you say, Edward, I have too much loans. Edward, I don't even know where my right foot is from my left foot. There is something after this. So seek help. So go to a professional, seek a professional. If it's not CLY Coaching, go to someone that you know. And don't go to your uncle. Don't go to your uncle that's been managing his finances for 20 plus years. Go to an actual professional. AFC has professionals out there. You can also go online and research financial professionals out there and seek help. We've gone through training. We have various level of expertise. And there is definitely someone that can help you out. So don't live life alone. Don't live life in a bubble. And if you take your cars out there to go get an oil change, or you may do it yourself. Same thing with your finance. Take your finances to someone else. Let them help you navigate the water. So it's a big ocean out there, and there's always someone with a boat that can take you from one channel to another.
That is great advice. Edward, thank you very much. For all of you who are listening or watching, we are going to leave the links to CLY Coaching on the show notes. We'll also have the link to the website, and you will see it on the screen. So make sure you get in touch with CLY Coaching. As Edward said, look for a professional, look for CLY Coaching. Edward, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Miguel.